Hello and welcome back to Femme Noir. We are a podcast that reviews and analyzes films that are written, directed by, or starring women and discusses their representation pertaining to the industry and what we see on screen. I'm Serena.
And I'm Whitney.
And today we are talking about Saltburn, which got a lot of hype
It
for
did.
reasons.
Yeah. It got a lot of good hype. It got a lot of bad hype. But I mean, hype is hype. It got people talking.
I
It
swear that's what happened with
it
her first movie. Emerald Fennel, the director, who needs to stop writing her own movies, in
well,
my opinion. I'm just gonna say that right now.
uh her first movie was Promising Young Woman?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
No, yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
People were like, I hate this movie,
Interesting.
but also, and then didn't it win an Oscar?
Ooh, good question.
And I was
I
pissed.
forget. I forget.
I know it was definitely nominated.
I So I the issues that I had with Promising Young Woman, I also had with Saltburn.
No, same.
Um which like for me my big one is pacing. I hate slow stories. I just don't have the attention span for it. Like not that they're bad, not that I don't think that they're good. I just literally don't have the attention span to watch or read anything that is just moves as slow as this movie did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just like I get so bored, but then also I have to finish the movie. And so then I'm either constantly pausing the movie and like coming back to it, or I'm like stewing in my dislike as
No,
I'm like trying to
literally.
watch this movie.
Oh my gosh. No, yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, whatever. I guess,
Hmm.
like, upon initial watch, when I finished watching it for the first time, I was like, hey, that was exactly what I was hoping it wasn't going to be. And then I was like, I am upset. And mostly because I think it's marketed as like a critique of like class structure and like privilege and
Hmm.
desire. And I was like,
Hmm.
it's not a very good critique. Just in the fact that like generally when you critique something, you like point out the bad things in the thing you're trying to critique, like class structure. But then I low key feel like the guy literally ends up becoming the guys that he's like the main character ends up becoming what
So,
she's trying to
hmm
critique in the first place,
hmm
which is like could be part of the critique, but it's also like it's not done very well because you have no one to like root for technically. Like you just like
yeah.
honestly, if I had to root for anybody in this movie, it would have been freaking Felix. I'm like they did
Hmm.
Felix dirty. Felix is the best person in this movie, and that's crazy.
Okay, you have just hit like at least three major talking points that I want to talk about, and a couple smaller ones that I'm probably am gonna forget in like 2 seconds. But like just everything you just said wants to make me go on to like this long tangent.
It's just like stop writing
Um,
these things, please. Like if you wanted it to be a movie where it's like we don't like this guy and we don't like this guy and this is a sad
hmm
story because this is
hmm
just a cycle on repeat, then like you gotta like do it, you know? Like
Yeah.
don't end it with like,
So, well,
oh yeah, this guy's awesome. He
hmm
finally did the thing. Murder on the dance floor, dance scene, baby. Like no, if we're supposed to root for him, then give us something to root for because he
we're
literally
not. Like
sucks.
that's the thing though. You're not supposed to like
We're
him.
not.
And I think and it's kind of like that one movie that we reviewed that starts off with this is a disagreeable female main character. You're not going to like her. Don't get mad at us. You remember
Oh
that movie?
yeah, yeah.
It's not okay.
Yes. That one was a good one.
Um, yes. So I think it's supposed to be like that, where you're not supposed to like the character. He's not supposed to, Oliver, the main character, is not supposed to be someone you're rooting for. This isn't a story about a hero, it's a story about a villain. Um, and it's a story about him achieving his villain arc. Like you've got the hero's arc, right?
Mm.
How he goes from like a flawed character to like the hero of the story by overcoming these obstacles. It's the opposite for Oliver. I think this is a story about how he falls and not how he rises.
I mean, but even with that, it's like, dude, him becoming evil, like because of these people or whatever, is also still like they're not. What's it? They're only Felix
Mhm.
is likable enough for us to be like, yes, that's a sad
Mhm.
thing. I think because also his entire family sucks and they make such a big deal about him being quote unquote poor in the beginning that it's just like,
Mhm.
okay, so
No, the critique on classism, I think, is the shallow way to view the movie, right?
yeah.
It's the thing that you're supposed to see going into it,
And
and
that's
like
what
it like
I don't like is that they marketed the hell out of that as if like that's supposed to be what the movie's about. And I was like, stop.
um I'm not surprised because I mean, like you still have a lot of people now um who are still, very like pro eat the rich, and it's still like a trending hashtag, right?
Oh yeah.
It's well, especially now with everything that happened with Kellogg. Um but so there I think they played that and made that the focus of the marketing because
and
they knew that that was what would bring people in.
and that's what a
But
lot
there
of
are
people
so
took away
many.
from it. Like looking at like
Yeah.
what was the trend after that? Was people showing off their houses and being like to that song and then
Yeah.
people were like, you do realize that the whole point of the movie is that we don't like that because like you're still rich and like you don't deserve that. And I was like, you guys,
Yeah.
neither one of you is correct. And that's why I think it's a bad movie.
Well, so
I think
so
no, it's not a
it's
bad movie. I think it's not very well written. Like there are other examples of movies like this that do it better. And for this to be her
perhaps I
follow-up
think
movie,
specifically for the classism aspect, I agree.
I think the thing is that I'm like, okay, if we're looking at just like the movie, right? You've got the beginning where he's
Mhm.
supposed to be poor, and you're like, okay, poor with this guy, but also he's kind of weird, so maybe not. Like, he's not really, he's literally an outsider by choice almost. Like, he has literally no reason to be like that. Like, he's not even nice to people. So, like, there's literally no reason for people to be like, yeah, maybe we should be friends with him. Like, the only person he does anything
Mhm.
nice to is Felix with the bike thing, which is a
Mhm.
crazy thing to do.
Yeah.
Which,
I
and
so I
then for
think
in
so
the
is
end, it
yeah.
to be like, oh, I planned this from the beginning is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like, no, you did not.
Um
There's no way you planned that. And then why would you do that? Especially if he's not
I
even poor. He's just a middle class dude.
No, 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 no. He's upper middle class. And for me, like this does kind of like play a big factor into like why he took over Saltburn and why it's not just about classism.
Oh yeah.
Um, because so basically, like for me, when he when he gets to college,
Uh-huh.
right, it's a fish out of water story. He's shy, he's awkward, he's so very clearly out of his element that he doesn't know how to fit in. And so you start to sympathize with that. Like that's all understandable. We've all kind of had moments where we've been like the outsider in a new situation because we see very, very like the first thing we see is all these kids who've grown up together and gone to boarding school together and holidayed together, like being friends and playing and hanging out in the courtyard and the hallways. Like they're all a very tight knit, rich community,
Yeah.
and he isn't. He comes off, like as you said, he comes off poor and out of his depth. and they kind of have his foil with the math guy, the one where you're like, oh, he got
The guy
in because of
immediately,
scholarships.
that's like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah, so you have this second fish out of water. You're just kind of like, oh, like they must both be scholarship kids because this is a very rich school. And if he's coming off poor and he's coming off kind of a little unbalanced, but like very smart, like there's a reason that like that must be the reason why they're there because they're obviously not in the
Mm.
element. So that's like, so you're supposed to sympathize with them trying to fit into this new place.
Except I don't, because
And
he doesn't do
well,
anything that makes me feel like,
well,
oh, poor guy.
so he like you're right. First of all, he doesn't try that hard to fit
Like
in,
the first thing
but
he does
also,
is literally get into a fight with Farley about his own essay.
yeah. Okay,
Okay, go go
hold
go.
on. I've got. That's another thing. I've got something about that. Um, but then, so then also like as he's kind of like going through the school, you have all the rich kids who are looking down on him, right?
Yeah.
And like not
Except
like
for
outright
Felix.
teasing him. Well, yeah, except for Felix. But like you have like all these people like talking behind his back, kind of making fun of him, right? And so he gets on the defensive and he kind of gets like a little bit more mean, and you're just kind of like, okay, like, fish out of water. He's being defensive, like he's kind of like in like a well, not a bad situation, like a rough situation. Like you kind of like you can justify it, right? Like if you want. No, I'm not
Yeah, if
okay.
you
I see
really
the
want,
face.
if you really
Yeah,
want to, you
if you really
technically
want.
could justify it.
Yeah, because you're still because it's still the beginning of the movie. This is like maybe not even 15 minutes in, right? So you're still under the
Yeah,
assumption
you're
that
under
this
the
is a
assumption
hero.
upon first
You're under the
watch.
assumption that this is someone that you're supposed to like. So you try to justify why you're supposed to like him. And then you do get to the scene with Farley and his paper, right? And I think for me, this is where one of the biggest themes is outright stated. Farley says something along the lines of like, you focus too much on style when you should be focusing more on substance.
Oh yeah, because he
Um,
points out, I actually wrote this down when it happened because I was like, this is kind of hilarious.
mhm,
Because he's reading his essay and he says thus like 7 times. And then he calls
mhm,
him, he's like, yeah, okay, sure, like use your words thus and thus. And then he's like, okay, so, and he's like, I don't know, it's just a little verbose. Like, don't you think? And then he's like, no. And I'm like, bro, what? Like, yes, that is crazy. Like, it's 2007.
yeah,
And he's
yeah.
like, well, that's like a
But
stylistic choice. And then he's like, you should be like critiquing the content of the essay instead of like the stylistic choice of the thing. And he's like, but also
mhm,
the style has a lot to do with whether it's perceived as good or not.
mhm. But see, like right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of gets into, like I said, like the major theme
That is
where
this movie.
you find out kind of like as you like watch the movie, as the story unfolds, you find out that the Cattons, the owners of
Mm-hmm.
Saltburn, they are kind of like this style of society, right? It's all showy, it's all flash, like there's no substance to them.
Yeah.
And then Felix, or not Felix, I'm so sorry, Oliver is supposed to be like the substance, right? So the style versus substance of people of society of kind of what's going on, right? He is like this very like layered person as we slowly find out throughout the film, right? Because just so much, this whole his whole plan, all the little plots that he has going on, different aspects of his personality that comes out. He goes from like this weird shy kid to like really weirdly dominating and like in control of these situations. Like his character definitely changes and you see different aspects of him. So
Yeah,
he's
he's
kind of like,
very odd.
yeah, so he's supposed to be like this substance and he's paralleled against the style of the Cattons. And Felix is the middleman between the two of them. He's what connects the two. He has both style and substance, right?
Yeah.
Because he actually cares about people while he has this rich, showy, stylistic background.
Mm.
So Felix is the middleman. He's the guy He's the hero. He's the one you're rooting for
Yeah,
because
he is the
he
hero.
has the best of both
It's a
worlds.
tragic story.
Mm,
And literally, like, none of what he says is, like, technically wrong either. Like, about
mhm.
Felix, at least. Like, Felix being the, like, yeah, like, everybody loves him. And, like, he doesn't get to be, like, it's almost as if, like, his substance is taken away from him because he's so popular. Like, he doesn't get to be his own person because he's literally the
Mhm.
hero in everybody's mind.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, yeah. Like, that's fine. Um, it's just very interesting to be like, what? Like, why would you do all of this? Just to, like, I don't know, get close to him? Like, what was the point?
Well, it's like the sister said. Um, he's a moth, right? He has to make holes in what he consumes. He's attracted to the light. Um, and I think Oliver was just so obsessed and so drawn to Felix that he was just like, he was consuming him. He was making holes in Felix. And like, a person can only take so much of their substance being taken away from them.
Mm.
And that inevitably had to lead to his death. Um, the director, I'm pretty sure it was the director, she said that you should view this movie as a vampire movie. Um, and that's kind of like how she, like, that was like one of the things that she was basing this movie off of.
Mm.
Like she wanted a gothic movie. Um, and part of that is how she kind of like wove in like a, I guess you could call it like a non-traditional vampire.
Yeah, I can see that. The marketing really does this movie an injustice, which I felt the same about Promising Young Woman. I was like, it was marketed
I
in a
mm,
way, and it is very much not what it's marketed as.
I didn't really consume any marketing for this movie at all. Usually when an ad would start playing on Instagram or TikTok, I scrolled away pretty quick. And then slowly people started coming out and just pretty much just saying like, "Oh my God, Saltburn, so crazy."
Which is also crazy because this is
And
not that crazy. I was like,
I
I've
think it was
definitely seen a
shocking.
lot. I think it's just because it was like it's mainstream and it's definitely like
Yeah.
written in kind of like that indie movie like way, like that
Yeah.
A24 way, but it's not that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Mhm.
know what people were like thinking it was. Like, I was not surprised at all. I was like, yeah, obviously, like, but obviously I've watched other movies that have
Mhm.
Barry Keegan in it. And I was
Mhm.
just like, yeah, like this is no different than other movies he's been in. Like, it's not any different really than like as far as shock value goes, like Killing of a Sacred Deer, Neon Demon, like it's amongst the same lines. So I was like, I don't know why everyone's freaking out. Like, we all watch Call Me by Your Name. What Timothy did that Peach, like, come on, okay, it's literally not that different.
I think you are overestimating the general public.
I no, I absolutely am. It's just like wow, or like not overestimating. It's just like wow, that's kind of weird when the general public gets a hold of things like this because we're like, dude, it's not that bad. Like it's not that crazy.
No, 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 no. That's where I think you're overestimating them. I think you assume that they've seen a lot of the same movies you've
Oh
seen.
no, it's that they
Um,
got a hold of a movie that is
mm,
definitely like made for the audience of like
a
like
niche
niche
movie. Yeah.
like audience, and they're like and made it mainstream, and then because of that they were all like shocked and bleh, and it was like okay, like yeah,
Gotcha.
we
Okay.
chill, like
Okay, okay, okay. I understand now.
it's like that's almost a
Um,
disservice to the movie itself in addition to like the marketing because that lends
mhm.
itself to the marketing of the movie and the talks about the
Do
movie is just like
do not talk about the marketing doing a disservice to this movie, first of all, right? Okay. Like I said, when I like the marketing that I consumed, very extremely minimal until people really started coming out and making like TikToks about it, right? When it really really like blew up kind of at its peak.
Mm-hmm.
Before that though, before that happened, you told me, "Oh my God, Saltburn, you need to watch it. We need to talk about it." I'm like, "Okay, cool, whatever." Like vaguely aware of it, kind of
And
understand.
that was
I'm sure it'll be
literally just
good.
because I knew it was Emerald Fennel, and I was like, she did Promising Young
Mm.
Woman. I'm very
Mhm.
interested to see like what she does next. And I was just like, we
Well,
should
and
talk about it
then
on the podcast.
yeah, yeah, okay. And then you also said something about vampires.
Did I?
And I don't yeah, I don't literally I don't know what you said. I have absolutely no clue. You said it, it immediately left my mind. The one single word about the movie that stuck in my mind was the word vampire, right?
Oh, I think it's because I
About
read an article that was talking about this one and another movie that was talking about like vampire sex. And it was literally because of both of the fact that these two movies had a scene in it in which there's like oral sex done to a
mm,
woman while she's on her period. And I was like, that's weird. That's
huh.
it was like I hadn't heard anything about the movie except for that. And that was like after like the first screenings of the movie, like while they're doing their tour. And
Well,
so,
I really
and then
wish I had
after
remembered
that,
you specifically said that. I really do because about a week after you told me we need to watch this movie, my brother and his friends, my baby brother and his friends were going to the movies and they're like, "Hey, we don't know what to watch. Can you give us recommendations?" So I pull up the listing and I'm like, "Okay, well, you might like this movie, you might like this movie, but my friend
oh,
Serena said that this is a really good movie. I don't
oh
know what
my
it's
God.
about, but it's about vampires." And he's like, "Okay, cool. I'm going to go watch it." He came home traumatized.
Oh my
It's also
God.
his favorite movie.
That's so funny. That's
This is
actually
all you.
hilarious.
All
That is so funny. Well,
He sat in a theater with his friends watching this movie on my recommendation.
I was like, look, the only part of this movie that I was like, okay, I feel like you maybe went a little too far with this one. And I was like, we get it. Like, we get it. You didn't have to do all that,
Mm,
was the grave. And I was like, okay,
mm.
Jesus. My
That
God.
was a improv.
Yes, that
That
was
scene.
improv, which
Yeah.
is like, I, it's like, it's a little on the nose, don't you think? Because I was literally going to say, like, the only good thing about this movie is, like, how she, or I think the best thing about this movie, in, like, my opinion, is how she uses sex and,
Mm.
like, as a,
Domination, power.
not necessarily that, but it's kind of like a tool to kind of show, like,
Mm.
outwardly the, like, inward, like, lustful desire that this guy has
Mhm.
for everything that this family has, like including like
Mhm.
you got Oliver bathwater, like when he does that you're like, okay, this guy, like, it's not just that he's obsessed with this guy, it's that like when you're consuming, literally, as you said earlier, like the vampire type thing, like when you're consuming that much of a person and it's done in like sexual, like intimate act, like he's drinking his bathwater after having
Mhm.
masturbated in it. Um, like in a lot of movies, that's like part of the like obsessive, like intimate, like consuming of not just a person but their being as well. You see it a lot in
Mhm.
like cannibal movies where it's like this,
Mm.
the idea of like cannibalism and sex are also very much like intertwined, or like the idea of love. Um, so I was like,
I'll take
she
your
did a
word for it.
really
I can't do
good,
body horror.
I was like, she did a really good job with that. Maybe, I don't think she had to do that much. Like we would have gotten it. But yeah, for example, I said Neon Demon earlier was a movie that I would think of when I
Mhm.
think about, I don't know. But like at some point,
I
the
Mhm.
girl, it's literally about like how LA like consumes you, and then like, you know,
Mhm.
the industry of
Mhm.
Hollywood fashion, etc. And then you are literally like eaten by the people in the industry who want what you have, which is literally what happens in the movie. Like it's once again
Mm-hmm.
very on the nose. Um, but yeah, I was like watching this movie, I was like all of the like sexual situations that he's in are literally outward um projections of like how much he just wants to be, like he doesn't just want to be in this family. He wants to, he needs it to be also a part of him, if that makes sense.
It does. I'm gonna counter,
Mm-hmm.
add on to, build off of, not counter, because like I agree with that. I think that is a good point. But the way that I took the sexual situations in the movie is that that was him showing his domination to the family. Like every time he had sex with them, or I guess the grave, uh, is uh, he was the one in control. He was the one with the power. He's saying like, you think you're above me, but look at me here.
Yeah.
Like here, I'm the one controlling the
Yeah,
situation.
especially when he does it with
Um,
Farley and he literally threatens him as he's
mhm.
doing that. And I'm still
Mhm.
not quite sure that that was like a consensual um
It was not.
thing. Like I was like
No.
I don't like that at all,
You shouldn't. No, that was not
which
consensual.
I'm very confused as to why nobody was fucking talking about that, but whatever.
Me too. No, me too. I agree.
I was like, y'all want to talk about the grave scene, but also like this man
Yeah, I don't know. Um,
threatened while having sex with a guy that literally was like not wanting it.
mhm.
Uh, uh whatever. It's fine. I guess. Sure. We're not there yet as a society.
I think people possibly weren't talking about it because at that point we knew he was the villain.
Yeah, you're like, well, I hope
We
so.
knew he was the bad guy. Yeah.
And like people want to be
And
like, this is
so,
a good for him, like kind of like how Promising Woman's like a good for her film, and I'm like, I don't really think so because both of them are not good. Like even
yeah.
Promising Young Woman, that girl, she does all of this without any of it being like, oh, did I ever think about what my friend would have wanted? No, it's only
Mhm.
for her. She puts herself in these
Yeah.
crazy situations and then she literally makes another woman after being like, I would never want a woman to go through like what my friend went through. She literally drugs another woman and makes her think that she was like, trigger warning, raped at a hotel and like doesn't remember what happened the next day just to make a point.
I don't remember that. Maybe,
The
oh, hold on. I
friend
might
from
vaguely
college,
remember
when she
that.
goes and has dinner with her, she like drugs
Oh.
her, and then when she like wakes up she's like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what happened. Like she doesn't actually like do that, but she makes her believe
Yeah.
that because she's like, oh, okay, so being drunk is an excuse. And it's like, dude, what? Like that's
Yeah.
insane. Like that's
Um,
evil. Like to cause
no,
someone the
for
same
sure.
amount of emotional trauma, like that's
Yeah.
I don't-
But yeah, I mean, I think at that point there was just so much other stuff. Well, okay, not by the end of the movie. By the end of the movie, there was just so many other things that people were shocked by. Because as sad as it is, I think assault is too common in movies
oh
that
yeah.
they weren't shocked by it. But they were shocked by the bathtub scene. They were shocked by the graveyard scene. Um, and the assault was just kind of like, oh, it's just another assault.
Yikes.
And that's why they were able to brush by it.
And I'm not gonna lie, by the time we get to the end of the movie, when Felix actually dies, I'm still like so confused.
Have you seen have you seen the breakdowns of the Greek mythology aspects of the film?
Um, I haven't seen the breakdowns. I definitely was thinking about it a lot. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
there were almost like too many things that it could have been that I was like, wait, which one? Which one?
Let me send you
Because I remember
a
looking
link.
up like the iconography of the antlers um, at the party that he wears
Oh, I haven't seen
all
anything
over.
about the antlers.
Because in certain cultures, it's kind of like a spiritual like superiority. So I was like, okay,
Oh,
interesting.
okay. So I haven't heard anything specifically about antlers, but I have heard that kind of like about deer, like about stags.
Yeah, deer.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's like Artemis with her like, yeah, I don't know. There's like a lot. And then it's like different cross culturally as well because like it can also be like what is it? Like how the male energy like is portrayed. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is interesting.
Um, I
Like rebirth
didn't
because
even
they
think
like
about it.
shed, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I don't even know anymore. There's too many things that this could be.
I Interesting. I feel like I feel like I had heard all the different takes about Saltburn at this point because it was such a talked about movie. But I never heard anything about the antlers. And now I got to think about that
Well, because he
because that all makes a lot of sense and it does add like just another
it is
layer.
like right before he dies.
Yeah. Um but so I just sent you a link and it's like halfway down the article it talks about the Greek mythology of Theseus and the Minotaur because
Yeah.
Felix dies in front of the Minotaur statue.
And the Minotaur statue,
Um,
fun fact, was actually based off of Barry Keoghan's body itself.
I saw that, yeah.
Crazy.
Um, yeah. Um, but so, okay, hold on. Just to make sure that I am going to hit the point, what was the question again?
I'm confused about the end. Like, what? So many
Okay.
things.
So I didn't understand a lot of stuff until I started, consuming different takes,
Mm-hmm.
learning different parts, different layers of the movie. And for me, it clicked with the breakdown of the Greek mythology. Um, so it's kind of like a couple different stories, and I'm going to try not to butcher it. Um, but you have the story of the Minotaur, right, where the king was supposed to sacrifice like his prized bull to Poseidon, but he loved the bull too much that he sacrificed a lesser bull to Poseidon. Poseidon found out, had the king's wife fall in love with the prized bull, and had the Minotaur as a son. Then the king had the maze built for the Minotaur, and that's what they have on the grounds. They have a maze with a Minotaur in it. Um, I think, and Oliver is supposed to represent Theseus. He is a prince who goes into the maze to slay the Minotaur, and he does this with the help of of someone else. Her name is, I think, like Adine, Aradnie, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I link it to spiders, especially
Arachne?
because what she does. I don't think it's
No.
Arachne, but essentially this girl helps him by giving him a spool of thread so that he can find his way back out of the maze once he kills the Minotaur. And like he was supposed to meet back up with her afterwards and get married and live happily ever after. But um, he ends up leaving her on an island, right? And like completely just forgets about her, uses her ignores, uses her up, and then like leaves her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on his way back home, his father, a different king, says, "Hey, when you're coming, when the boat returns, I want you um, to sail a white flag if you're alive and a black flag if you're dead."
He's
And
gonna wave a
Theseus,
black flag if he's dead.
hmm?
How are you able to wave a flag at all if you're dead?
Oh, well, his crew, like, so his dad wanted, um, he wanted knowledge before he didn't want to be surprised upon the boat's landing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so for some reason, Theseus decides to fly a black flag, and so his dad thinks that his son is dead and ends up. I forget if he falls off a cliff or if he commits suicide by jumping off a cliff. But either way, the dad dies because he thinks his son is dead.
Yes.
So Theseus then returns home and ends up taking over his dad's place as king. So his son like tricks his dad into dying and supplants his place, which is why Oliver is like Theseus, right?
Yeah.
Um, but then if you
Doesn't it also
still
kind of
continue,
go into like, because the other image with his wings was Icarus.
yes, and then if you continue going off that, the king who had the Minotaur as a son needed someone to blame, for all of this, and ends up blaming uh, Deadlius, I think is how you
Daedalus.
pronounce it. Daedalus, and ends up throwing Daedalus and Icarus
Because he's the guy that makes
into
the maze,
jail.
right?
Yes, and so Daedalus and Icarus are in jail because of everything that happened, and the king is grieving. And Daedalus then builds the wings so that they can escape, and then you have the whole Icarus
Flying too
story.
close to the sun.
And yeah,
That one makes less sense. Like, obviously, it makes sense that, like, maybe the family itself is, like, flying too close to the sun. But it's like, Felix isn't necessarily, like, an Icarus type
Felix
figure.
isn't Icarus, but he's a reference to the story. I think Felix is the sun, right?
Like, the
Because
sun is
he's the
in, like,
goal.
S-U-N?
S-U-N, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, my mistake.
I was like, isn't the sun Icarus?
um,
Maybe
no.
he's,
Yes,
maybe
but
he's the Minotaur.
mm, I don't know who the Minotaur would be in this movie,
Actually,
but
it could be the Minotaur. The family
Felix?
is the king. They have this labyrinth. Felix is the Minotaur. Maybe it's like one of those twisted stories of Minotaur is not actually a monster, but
Oh no, in
victim or
the
whatever.
stories, the Minotaur is a monster. Like they ritually sacrifice people to the Minotaur.
I mean, they kind of did that for Felix, right? He just didn't know.
Did they?
I don't know. Probably.
I feel like Felix would have known.
Maybe. He also, like, yeah, he probably would have done because he also was an idiot, which is the only reason I can justify the scene where they talk about Farley being black. Like, why did they
Mm.
do that? They did not even really talk about it or address it in any way other than just to bring it up and drop it. I was like, okay.
I think like for me, they were trying to like show that as much as Felix is supposed to be like the hero, he is still flawed, right?
Yeah.
He still has these blind spots, and that he isn't kind of like this perfect person. It's just because he he isn't as in touch with so this is where the classism would come in, right? He's still rich. He's still as out of touch with the
And
common
he's still white.
everyday lives. of every, and he's still white, um, of the every person. Like, he's not as in touch as we thought he was.
Mm-mm. No, because
Um,
even earlier in the film, when he's trying to convince his friend to invite Oliver to the whatever party or whatever, and she's like, dude, nobody wants to sit next to him. And he's like, that can't be true. Like, you're being so rude. Like, shut up. It's like he's completely oblivious to the fact that, like, other people have opinions about people around him. Like, he literally yells at the girl. It is like, oh my God, you're being so rude. I can't believe you would say something like that. And she's like, it's true. Like, everybody makes fun of him for how he dresses. Like, he's such a weird dude. He does all of these things. And then he's like, wow, so rude.
I see where you're coming from, but like at that point, he like I think we were supposed to be rooting for Felix. Like we're like, "Oh wow, he's such a good friend. He's sticking up for his friend."
Yeah, at that point. But then,
Um,
like, to further, like, go on to the, like, it does add to him being kind of out of touch later
out
on
of
in the film,
touch.
you know? Of just being,
Yeah.
like, not
Okay, okay,
really
okay.
on the same, like, he just sees his own thing.
So that, well, I mean, like that's kind of mm, so there is another theme to the movie, where it's not everyone is as they seem,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everyone's got like this hidden depth to them. And we see that a lot with the family and poor dear Pamela, um, Carrie Mulligan, right? Where to her face, they're all very supportive, and then behind their back, they're talking about her, right?
Yeah.
And, they're all kind of like fed up with her. Um, and it's just like in that scene, like Felix, when he's standing up for Oliver, is kind of like the one person who does kind of appear to be who he is. Like he is who he appears to be,
Yeah,
sorry.
like, he is what you get at face
Um,
value.
yeah. And meanwhile, as the whole movie goes on, with those like with that girl and with like the rest of the group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of assume like, oh, everyone likes Oliver. Oliver's part of the group. He's their friend. And then we get that scene, and we're like, oh, wait a
With the
minute.
exception of Farley, because Farley does not like him from the beginning. He never fucking likes this dude.
Yeah, Farley. I mean, Farley. He didn't try too hard, but he did try a little bit to get along with Oliver.
Eh.
Um, like I said,
I
he
think he
didn't try
just
too
accepted
hard.
his presence. He was like, but I don't like you, though.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
It is
no, but I mean,
unfortunate,
like,
though, to have a black character in a movie that's, like, talking about all of these things, like the vampiric nature of, like, desire and greed and whatnot, and then to,
mm,
for 1 second, bring up race and then completely disregard it.
yeah.
It's like, why? Like, if you're gonna do the desire, like, just do that. Like, it's kind of like one of those, like, Bridgerton situations where it's like, if
Uh,
you bring race into it and, like, every, like, if that is canon in your, like, world building, then that has so many more implications than, like, now it's like you're almost omitting everything else because you showed a little bit of that. And so
okay.
instead of
Okay,
having it,
okay,
like,
okay.
maybe you should have just not had it. It's like when people try to comment on something they have no business talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you, like, don't bring it up then? Like, if you weren't
Mm-hmm.
ready to talk about it, then don't bring it up. Um, that's just, like, a personal thing that I have, because it's like, when
I
it
think it's a
comes
good
to, like,
point.
characters like Farley, it's like, dang, we really can't just have, like, characters that are, like, just black for being a black character. Like, it's kind of like that thing of, like, does it always have to be that we have to be talking or, like, defending ourselves for being in a movie, for being in said
Mm-hmm.
situation in every single movie that we're in? Like, no, maybe sometimes we can just be a random rich dude. Is that so hard to believe?
I think so. With that explanation, for me, I think they brought it up then just kind of as a shortcut,
Oh
to
yeah, it felt cheap.
further the, yeah, to further, the classes storyline, classism storyline, and then to also just like a quick shortcut to show like, oh, Felix is flawed. Like he still has his blind spots.
Yeah. We do have to talk about that scene though, because that dinner scene where they're talking to dear old Pamela and she's like, I think I'm gonna go and stay like with a friend of mine. I've been such a like an imposition on you guys. And they're like, no, 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 darling, I could see how you would think that, but absolutely not. But also I would never want to make you think that you should stay.
Oh,
Dude, the way she delivered those lines was so good. I freaking
yeah.
like I love that woman. I'm not gonna lie. Not Carrie Mulligan's
Mm-hmm.
character, but what's her face? Rosamund
Her
Pike.
name's on.
Like
Yes,
Rosamund
Rosamund
Pike
Pike.
is I am obsessed with her. She is so good at acting that it's just like I freaking
She,
love her.
yeah, she. I think she was my favorite character in the whole movie. Because like I said, she's very two-faced.
Yeah.
She's kind of leading the cast when it comes to like the two-face
Oh yeah.
um aspects of it. But I think Rosamund Pike as an actress nailed it.
Oh yeah.
Um,
The way she delivered the line when she first sees Oliver and goes like, "Oh, darling, he's so handsome," and he's like, "I told you that he was." She's like, "Yeah, but like you can be like that though.
yeah.
You're nicer than most people."
See, so that line, it like that's kind of the beginning of where you see how Felix is like the intermediary between his family and Oliver. He's
Yeah,
the middle ground, the meeting point.
absolutely. Because even
Because even like,
we were really about to say the exact same thing. Go ahead.
yeah, because even like at this point in the film, like when it's just beginning, you see that Felix is different than the rest of his family. He is more substance than style than them. He is, well, we find out later, not completely connected with the everyday lives of, the modern person. He is more aware than his family is.
Yeah, it's almost like he's kind of shielded a little bit from it
Mm-hmm.
because like even with
Um,
the scene when like he's showing Oliver like through the place and he's like, "Oh, also like oh, I should have told you that they're probably going to go through your things," or like my mom, she has this weird like phobia of facial hair, so like you're definitely going to want to shave that before you meet her, like and stuff like that. Yeah, he's definitely the like before you meet my family, let's spruce these things up because I already know they're going to say something like intermediary like let me groom you real quick kind of a
mm-hmm.
thing, which is so funny.
Yeah. My favorite line of hers is when she says, I have a complete and utter horror of ugliness ever since I was very young. I don't know why. And then she just kind of like continues to like just describe how much she hates ugliness.
It's she,
I thought it was
she had
great.
the best lines, dude.
Well, and she says it so like genuinely too.
Yeah,
And just like no clue like what she is saying and like why.
like when her friend
Like why.
literally commits suicide, she goes, oh, she'd do anything for attention. Like, bitch, oh
Yeah.
my god.
Yeah.
I used to be a lesbian once. And then she says something that I was like, I have never thought of this ever. I was like, I completely disagree. And she goes like, women are just so wet. And I was like, what?
Mm, mm-hmm.
I I only disagree with that because I'm like, men are not dry. So I was like, I don't understand what you mean by that.
Yeah, share your thoughts in the comments
Please.
on that line.
Should I make a poll on Spotify? Be like, what do you guys think about
Yeah.
that line?
Yeah, do it.
Do you think
Let's see what
men
we get.
are dry or that women are too wet? That really is the question. I think the thing that I just can't like do with this movie, like the reason I
Mm.
don't like it is just because there are definitely other movies that I've seen that do it better. Like I literally kept being dang, this is kind of like I see what you're doing. Dang. But like you're just not quite like finishing the it's almost like there's just too many things where it's just like, okay, you brought that up, like are we gonna finish it? Or like why on earth would we do all of this? Like if he like why did he not why did
I
she
think the
have the
point
scene
was,
at the end
mhm,
where it explains the whole plan from Oliver's POV? Like when he goes
because
back,
people aren't
and I was like,
aren't
that I feel
film
like
literate
does the
anymore.
whole thing a disservice. And she
I
did the
think,
same thing in Promising Young Woman, and I had an issue with that too,
yeah,
because I was like,
yeah.
it's almost as if she doesn't trust her audience enough,
No, she doesn't.
and that like sucks because like you
Hmm.
can't just spoon feed your audience. Like you can't make a critique and then spoon feed it to them.
I so um I mean, like as a whole, I like as a whole, I liked the movie. It was
It
boring
is
and
boring.
slow, but I appreciate everything it did, and I like it more as something to talk about, and like I like, hearing all the different breakdowns of it,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't watch it again.
I literally tried and
Um,
I couldn't finish it. I was like, I'm so bored. And I was
it's
just kind of annoyed at that point. I was like, all right.
Yeah, but I think the whole point was just to make you uncomfortable. I think it was to make you uncomfortable. I think it was meant to make you think and make you want to do something. Um, kind of about just like all the different, um, at least one of the aspects of the film, whether it be the classism, whether it be, two-facedness, style versus substance. I think it wanted you to think and do, and it was trying to make you uncomfortable as a call to action. But then it was ruined by her spoon feeding us kind of
Yeah.
everything with the
Like the
monologues.
spoon feeding part, literally and I will attribute this to why people misunderstood the film. Like and were like, "Oh,
Mm,
like what a king. He like overcame. He's like down with the rich, like yes king, like he did that."
yeah,
It's because she did that whole thing at the end where it's like this was all a part of the plan. I infiltrated
yeah.
the rich by being poor and I did all of it and now it's all mine. Like you ruined it.
Mhm. I the worst part of the film, I think, were the opening and ending monologues.
And they still aren't
Um,
really, they don't make sense.
no.
Like I'm still
One
trying
of
to figure
the
out
so
why he's talking about was I in love with him?
it
I
was
did
so
love him, but I
I'm
wasn't in love with him.
I swear to God, it might have been like one of the very first things we learned um when we were learning screenwriting. But I swear to God, it had to have been like the first thing. Was don't open with a monologue.
Yeah, how it's like a cheat. Like, it's a sign
Yeah.
for writing, to be honest. Like, it's a
Yeah.
very easy thing to do to fill in space or to, like, give context to something, except this
You're literally
literally doesn't.
telling, not showing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when they're out of bodied monologues. Like, that actually is one of my biggest pet peeves, which this movie, that's not what they did here. I'm just saying in general, I hate when they have someone that's monologuing to an audience, like as if it, like, it completely switches the POV for no
Gotcha.
reason.
Yeah. Sorry.
Like,
My mind took a
like
moment
the
to.
consistency
Yeah.
is like not there. Like, I think in Twilight they do it where she like gives a monologue at the beginning and the end of the movie.
Which one? I
The
only
first
seen the
one.
first one.
Yeah,
Really? Okay.
when
Well.
she's
Okay. So
talking about
first of
like the
all,
lion and the lamb or whatever, and like then ends with like, yeah, and so that's why I think blah blah blah, and we're like, okay, but this isn't like a retelling of anything. Like, who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? Because at no point
so
in this movie is it like a I'm talking to you audience, and this is what happens.
yeah,
Like, it
I'll have to
bothers me
take your
so
word for
much.
that. I've only seen the first Twilight, and I've only seen it once, and that was in
I
theaters.
love watching Twilight.
Um, I when it came out, when all that was, super big, I was kind of like in my I'm not like other girls phase.
Same.
Um, yeah, so I didn't watch it because all the other girls were watching it. That and I did read the books. I read all the books, and I only really liked the first book. The other books were kind of like eh. Um, and so I didn't really see a point in watching the
I
movies.
did not see a single Twilight movie until 2020.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because then I started sending you Twilight
That was the
memes.
first time I watched it, and I watched it with my siblings. We were like, "Oh my god!" Because like I think like I had seen those memes where they're like, "Oh, like Edward sparkles or whatever," and I was like, "LOL, that's
Hmm.
funny." But then like when I watched the movie and he's literally encrusted in diamond, I was like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
they weren't kidding." Like, I thought maybe it was like a
No.
camera bloom, like he's just like really like shiny, like
Mm-mm.
no, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they did that."
Yeah. They did what was written,
I
so
was like, wow. Yeah, anyway, that's so funny. But yeah, I think like spoon feeding the audience in this one at the end, just she needs to stop doing this. She's done it in
yeah.
everything that I've seen her do. Like, she did it in Promising Young Woman at the end where she's like the girl dies, and then afterwards there's like a phantom text that apparently she knew she was going to die, so she sent a text to be scheduled
Hmm.
with an explanation of what she did and who she sent money to and blah blah blah, and I'm like, that's why would you do that? Like, that almost
Hmm.
completely negates the whole fact of like everything leading up to that point. Like, her dying should have been the end, because that would have, like, that was the complete bubble, and then you just went too far. Like, you were like, oh wait, but like, no, no, stop it.
Um,
Same in
she
freaking Killing
did.
Eve. It
She
bothers me.
Yeah, I was about to say she did do Killing Eve. Which I actually Killing Eve was the first TV series that I hard quit.
She did
Um,
the second season.
how many seasons are
There
there?
are three. I think she did the second and third.
Okay, then that explains. So I the first season of Killing Eve, not bad. Not great, but not bad. Like I liked it well enough. But then the second season, I could not finish.
You want to know why?
I thought it was really boring.
It's because they got rid of Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Would
Yeah.
have tied it all
Yeah.
together and made it fucking wonderful. But no.
Yeah. Um, but I mean, maybe that was why. Maybe she's just not my director.
Yeah, I
Or
just
writer.
guess I have read multiple things too from like other people that have reviewed a lot of the things that she's done, and they're just like, she's a good director. She needs to
Okay,
stop
yeah,
writing the
director.
screenplays.
Yeah, I agree. She is a good
She
director.
needs to
She's not a
step
good
out of the
writer. Yeah.
screenplays. It's very, you know what it's
Um,
giving, and I hate to say this.
mm.
It's giving a little M. Night Shyamalan. M. Night Shyamalan cameoing in his own movies, in which you did a good thing, but that thing, stop. You did too, like, now you're doing too much. Like, you, stop. Stop. The Sixth Sense slept.
Um,
After that, maybe no. Split. You came back with that one. That was good. And then you did the sequel. Like, you should have
he's
left it
got, I don't
alone,
know.
man.
Yeah. I mean, he's got more flops than movies that I like, but he's not like on my um he's not like on my list
It's like,
of
stop writing.
bad
Just stop
directors,
writing. Because
writers.
directing, gorgeous. Love, love what you did with that. I love how he uses mirrors when he's talking, or when he has conversations between his characters, especially when they're like not mentally like consistent with what their actions
Hmm.
are. Like, it's wonderful. But stop writing, dude. Please.
You know who's on my list of, I guess, people who should stop doing things?
Ew.
Zack
Oh,
Snyder
yeah.
should stop
He
directing.
should. I'm
And
sorry.
like just purely from his work alone, like not excluding everything else. I've I've seen hundreds of movies in theaters, right? Um, Multiple of his films I have seen in theaters, and they're the only films I fall asleep during. And not even just kind of like during like the boring parts or the exposition parts or kind of like the mid points when things get slow. Like I'm talking the climax.
No,
Like during the
literally.
big battle
I
scenes,
hate
I'm
turning off a
asleep.
movie. Like, I haven't seen his in theaters, but like
Mm.
most of the movies of his that I have seen, it'll be like right at the point where they're like explaining it all. Like, it's literally the climax of the movie, and I'm like, I fucking can't. And like, I have to turn it
The
off because
Yeah.
I'm like, I just no. What?
So the first
That's
movie
so
of his that I
dumb.
fell asleep in was the Superman one.
Superman. Yep. That one was hella long
And
too.
yeah, well, no, so like as Superman's fighting the big bad,
Yeah.
right? Like literally the fight is ongoing. I literally fell asleep in the middle of the fight during the loudest part of the movie in a movie theater with big ass speakers where you're meant to like feel the sound,
Yeah,
right?
and it's not
I
like
fell
he
asleep
helps
in the
his
middle of
case
it.
by using
Mm.
slow-mo every 5 seconds for a scene that should take literally
Oh
five
my
seconds to make it then
God.
fucking 15 minutes, dude. I cannot.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That is painful. That is so painful.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, bro, stop, please.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool
I can't
the
do it.
first time you did it. It's not cool anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get so much hate for talking bad about Zack Snyder.
So many people talk bad about Zack Snyder. I did the same thing in Batman vs Superman during the big climactic
No,
battle.
literally, when
It's
he
not
said
like
Martha, I literally turned the movie off. For the second
I fell
time, because the
asleep.
first time I turned it
Yeah.
off was when they're literally talking about the sketch that was drawn. And they
Mm,
both look at it and immediately go, that looks exactly like the creature that we saw. And it literally looks like a children's drawing of the
yeah.
Batman symbol.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the
Yeah.
fuck are y'all talking about? You're not even going to address the fact that that is a shitty ass drawing and that is comical. Like, it is like, I saw it, I laughed, thought they were going to make a joke about it, and then they didn't. And I was like, what the
Yeah.
frick is this?
I think I think the fact that they didn't make a joke about it was what pulled me out of the scene.
Yeah, I was like, dropped. I literally had to turn the movie off. I was like, I can't. And I tried to return the next day, and then the whole Martha thing, and I was like,
Yeah.
I did not finish that movie until like months later. Like, I literally was like, let me just look up the ending because I am not
I
watching
think I
any of this
laughed
movie.
aloud in the theater at the Martha
I was like,
scene.
this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think I laughed at that scene. And I no, I did. I did. Because then I looked around the theater to see if anyone else thought it was as ridiculous as I
No, all
did,
the film bros are
and
like,
no
this
one
guy's a
else.
genius. He should have
Yeah.
made the Justice League. I can't wait for Snyder Cut. I'm like, bitch, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Snyder Cut was
Yeah.
also bad. It was not any
I
better.
I think I've talked to you about why I don't think the Snyder cut should have been made, and it's not because of like like money reasons or anything. Like personally, I don't think Snyder should have made it, and I think that they like bribed him with something to do it.
There was like drama about that where it was like he was gonna do it and then like he
Well,
literally
so what
had
happened
like
was,
his daughter or something happen, some family issue.
so he was filming Justice League, and then his daughter committed suicide. So he stepped back and said, "Hey, I can't do this anymore. I need to be there for my
Mm-hmm.
family." To which, at the time it seemed like Warner Brothers was very much like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll let you go. Like it seemed like they were very like they let him step away, no problem.
Yeah.
Which usually, like, I want to say, like, isn't common because contracts and money and all the hype that they had put into it. But they're also on like a timetable,
Yeah.
so they they
It's
pivoted
also
and
like
then they made the movie
it's Zack
anyways.
Snyder.
Yeah,
That's like telling
yeah.
Tarantino like, sorry, actually no.
Mm-hmm. But so afterwards, when Justice League came out and it started getting all the bad reviews and people were calling for the Snyder cut, Snyder came out and he said, "I can't go back to this film. Like this film has too many bad memories for me. I have so many bad associations attached to this. There's no way I'm going to revisit this film. I'm not going to make a cut. Please stop asking. You're bringing up very hard memories for
Yeah.
me." Um, to which no one listened to him. And eventually we ended up getting the Snyder's cut. And I want to know what went on behind those doors. I want to know how they bribed him into making that cut.
My lord.
Hmm. I think that is all my thoughts on Saltburn.
Yeah, back to Saltburn. I'm like, I don't like it. And literally, I actually had
Yeah.
to write down every single movie that it made me think of because I was like,
Mhm.
just because of that extra step, like that ruined the movie. Like, I think literally
Mhm.
when people ask me my opinion about it, and I was like, it's not a bad movie. It just, you can't go into it with the thought of it's going to be like any of these things that you would think that it would be. I was like, don't think of
Yeah.
it as like don't think too hard about it being a critique. Just watch it as a thriller and you'll fucking get everything you need. Like it's still a critique. They do the critique well. If you look at it as like a regular thriller, like horror movie, which most of them are critiques anyway, like it's so much
Mhm.
better to look at it through that lens than it is to look at it through like, oh, she's gonna do like a thing, like it's gonna be class structure, like we're gonna be talking
Mhm.
about like eating the rich and blah 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 and like
Mhm.
all of that stuff. And I'm like, nope. You also can't look at it as being like a ooh gay undertones maybe, because I was like, is this gonna be like Talented Mr. Ripley, which I fucking wish it was, but it was not. Sad.
Um,
So yeah, if
I
you
think when
haven't
it
seen the
comes to the
movie,
class structure, I think when it comes to class structure, Parasite did it better.
oh yeah, like if we're doing the like we don't like this main character, like this is kind of a downfall, like tragic story thing, the other movie
Mhm.
that freaking Rosamund Pike was in that was on Netflix did it so much better. I Care a Lot. She's literally
Yeah.
scamming old people, and what made the
Yeah.
movie, I literally think I fought with somebody over this because they were saying like, oh, we don't like it when it's like bury your gays, and I was like, but that movie in particular, she needed to die at the end. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Like she needed to die at the end because then it literally is a full circle like plot.
Mhm. Mhm. That's a good point.
This one was not.
Um. So then, okay. what are movie recommendations that do it better, or just similar vibes? Um, what are your recommendations?
My recommendations are Talented Mr. Ripley, Do Revenge, Ingrid Goes West, and I Care a Lot.
Ingrid Goes West is on my list. Mine's mostly based off vibes. Um, I have Nightcrawler,
Mm.
American Psycho, Ingrid Goes West, uh, The Social Network, and Parasite.
The Social Network.
The vibes.
Yeah. We should talk about that movie.
Directed by a woman, I believe. So we can.
Because
Yeah.
I just like that movie in general. Like, just like, as to talk about it, to talk about
Mm-hmm.
that movie and all of the different things going on from like a feminist woman's perspective, like just being like a person that exists as a woman in the world and looking at that movie through that lens is so interesting to me. Maybe we'll do it for Patreon.
Okay.
It's fun. It's a
Yeah.
fun one.
Yeah. I agree.
Um,
So we know you hate the movie, but what's your rating?
my rating, it's probably like mid. Like, it's just like, it's 6 out of 10.
Okay. I want to go back and listen to all the episodes that I've done to see how many movies I actually like. Mainly because I'm going to say something that I feel like I say every time we record, which is I didn't like it, but I'm going to score it high. I probably give it like an 8.
An 8.
Yeah. I'm taking points off because of the pacing. It's super slow.
Gorgeous.
And
It's
I just,
gorgeous. The acting,
it is.
really
No, it
great.
is. Yeah, well, it's scoring high because of the technical aspects.
Yeah.
I like everything pretty much except for the pacing and then the bookend monologues. Um, but yeah, it's I mean it's not a movie I like. It's not a movie I'd go back and watch again. But everything else was done so well in my opinion. Um, that I'm rating it high.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just like, ugh. It's like, yeah, I've already gone into it's just too, it's like, I don't, it's like I'm almost offended by the time I get to the end of the movie. Like, I'm all excited to see like what the, like how it's gonna end. And then we get to the end and I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. And then it's like, nope, just kidding. She's gonna keep talking. And now I feel offended. Like, did you not think that? Okay, as an audience, well, fine, fuck it, whatever. I don't know. Sure. Why not? Why not? And I'm like, you know that this actually is to your detriment, right?
Yeah. I think 6 is still a good rating for you to give it, all things considered.
Yeah. I think a lot of people think more about this movie specifically because it has hot people in it, which is something that I was like, I think like had it not had like Jacob Elordi and Barry Keoghan in it. And I have to say, I'm
They don't
put
do
this
it
on
for
rec.
me.
I have been in love with Barry Keoghan since Killing of a Sacred Deer. And I literally think in our Eternals episode, I
That's
was
not
like, I think
surprising.
this man is so hot for some reason, and I don't know why. And I think people are sleeping on him. And then this movie comes out, and now everybody wants some Barry Keoghan. I'm like, you know what? Shut the fuck up. I fucking told y'all, and y'all told me that I was crazy. So no, you don't get this. Y'all can thirst over Jacob Elordi, whatever. He's too perfect. He's like tall and weird. Not weird. He's literally, once again, perfect. That I don't. Anyway, let the record know that I knew Barry Keoghan was hot before y'all.
I think, like, for me, I think the prettiest person in the film is,
Rosamund Pike.
yeah.
Yeah.
The other, everyone else doesn't really do it for
Rosamund
me.
Pike is
They're like a,
gorgeous.
she is. She's very pretty.
Like, I was not kidding when I said I love her. Like, oh my God. I'm like, I will literally watch anything just because she's in it.
I think she's getting 3 new AMC um, commercials.
Rosamund Pike? Nicole Kidman.
Wait, no. Shit. Cut that,
I
please.
will. I was like, hang on. But yeah, I don't. 6 is probably the most I'll give it.
Mm-hmm.
Bordering on like a 5, but I wouldn't give it less than that.
Okay.
Like, it's entertaining, it sparks conversation. You can still like dissect it and talk about it in ways that are like construct, like for filmmaking point of view, like it's pretty good. Cool that it's a woman director. Cool that she's able to just make a movie without it having to be like, is this a feminist movie? I love that.
Yeah.
Because the first
Yeah,
movie she
I
made was
agree.
not that.
No.
Once again, to her own detriment for being like, this is a feminist bombshell girl boss movie. And then it being like, no, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
She really does not want to make a character that like people would want to root for. Like, she really does not want to do that.
Like, so, like, when you're writing, it's more interesting to not write a hero.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
It's just like, she really does not want you to even like, man, I just saw Dune 2 and I keep wanting to bring this up, but like even in the books, you've got like the you're not supposed to like this guy kind of a thing.
mm-hmm.
You've got Hunger Games, the Songbirds and Snake. You know this guy is evil, but you still end up rooting for him like in the
Mm-hmm.
like in the particular story that you're watching, even though
Yeah.
you know he's going to be evil, because there are certain aspects that you're like, okay, I can kind of see where he's coming from. But her characters do not have that aspect of any type of like relatability, and when they do have that, it's taken away from them by the end of the film.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, just kidding, that was a lie.
Yes. Yeah.
He's actually upper middle class.
Um,
Both of
yeah.
his parents are alive. He just said that for some
Yeah.
reason. Why? Why did
Hold
he
on, I
do
think you
that?
lost me.
I guarantee you, being upper middle class, he still would have gotten all of the attention for being poor with all of the rich people. And yet he still decided, no, I'm going to lie to this
Yeah.
guy, tell him that my parents have mental issues, that my dad was a drug dealer, and my mom is literally batshit crazy, and that I can't go home. And then when you decide to pull away from me because I'm being a little too overbearing, and you're like, okay, I need a break, I'm going to then tell you that my father's dead. Only for you to later find out that I just come from a normal family. What the fuck? That is the thing that I'm just like, that, please explain. Why? Don't explain how. I want to know why. Because that is so extra. Which is why I'm like, if you look at it through a thriller perspective, like, oh, he's just a psychopath or a sociopath or whatever the fuck.
Do you think it's her trying to like write
I
extra
have no
dimensions
idea, but
into
that's
a
a crazy
character?
thing to do. Just as a character, like, there is no reason that we see at all for him to want to do any of this. Like, we're just supposed to like believe it. Like, and if you were like, yeah, he's poor, then great, we would have been like, yeah, he like really wants to be rich or whatever, and he's also just a little weird. But then to be like, just kidding. Actually, he comes from a completely normal family and he's completely fine. And we're like, this man is unhinged. Like, now this is just a scary movie. Like, I would rather it just be a scary movie and he's a sociopath or something. Like, because that's crazy. That's a weird ass thing to do. Like, is it just a
Yeah.
movie about obsession? I wish.
Yeah.
But it's not, because you've already said literally before we all saw the movie that it's more than that. And so now I have conflictions.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know if it's lazy writing. I don't know if it's the fact that she doesn't know how to do a well-dimensioned character, or if she's trying to do
It's like
like
maybe she's trying to do too much all at once.
she's trying to do like a M. Night Shyamalan with
Yeah.
characters. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think it's definitely more fun to write a villain, to write someone's downfall than it is um to write, their their hero arc. Uh I'm not gonna lie, like she does do it fairly well because by the end of the movie, you're certainly not liking the character. And I've seen a lot of people try to attempt similar things with their characters, and
It yeah,
it
it
is
is. I
something
think the
very
thing is
hard to
that there
do.
isn't really an arc in the character. Like,
Mm,
the character makes decisions and does things, and they're just reacting to other things that are happening. But like, the decisions that they're making,
mm-hmm.
like, to move the plot forward are just, they have no solid reasoning behind them. That it's kind of like the character's not changing by the end of it. Like, there isn't a lesson learned by the end of it for like the character. Like, we just watched this guy do all of this,
Mm-hmm.
and it just is literally the same linear line. And then it's like, okay, well, there's supposed to be a lesson for the audience, and it's like, okay, but even in that, like, even if you look at like comedy, tragedy, like the fall of a hero, like, at some point there is an arc. It is more than just a
Yeah.
flat line.
Yeah.
There are stakes, and then you would like you follow along with the movie, and you're like, okay, I think I understand the stakes. Yes, you've given me the stakes now, and then it's like, just kidding, and then it ends, and I'm like, all right,
Yeah. She does build up very well, but then
yeah.
she undercuts herself at the last moment and then just ends it.
It's like I really want to root for her, but then she does this, and I'm like, stop it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I want to
Yeah.
like your movies. I really fucking do. They are gorgeous. Your directing is cool, but your writing is really turning me
Mm-hmm.
off. I'm so sorry.
I think because of all the discourse that this movie has caused, she is going to
No,
continue to be
100%.
able to
Because
write
it's
her
the
own
same thing with
movies.
Promising Young Woman. So many think pieces and
Yeah.
articles are being written. Everyone's talking about it. The first one, she freaking was
Mm-hmm.
nominated for an Oscar, and I'm fairly certain she also won one, which I completely disagree with. And
Yeah.
then she just
Mm-hmm.
gets to keep writing them. And then there's like, why? I'm interested. I'm like, is she a nepo baby of some sort? Because like, how did she get the
Ooh,
opportunity in the first
maybe.
place? Because if she were a
Um,
person of color, they would have never let
I
this come off the ground.
well, I was gonna ask you later, kind of like where she came from, because if you look up her credits, she's got six previous films or six
Like, writing
previous
credits.
projects. Yeah. Yeah, for writer. So you have Saltburn. So going, let's I guess um, oldest to newest. 6 episodes of the TV series
I think
Drifters,
it's British.
which I've never heard about. I don't know if
I
you
know
have.
she's British.
Interesting. Hmm. Then you have a short, Careful How You Go. 6 episodes of Killing Eve. then you have Promising Young Woman, a music video, and then Saltburn.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I'm like, she's getting discourse and all of this stuff, and yet freaking Woman King got nothing. Significantly better movie.
Yeah.
Excellent acting. Excellent directing. Nope. Like, when I tell you a person of color could not get away with this, she's just out here doing it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, she must
There's
have
gotta be.
some
I'm
type of connection
convinced.
somewhere. Yeah, because I don't know how
Like,
else
let alone the fact that she's
any
a
of this could have
woman.
been done.
Because you know they also would never, like, there's something.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's gotta be, I swear. Like, she has to have some sort of, like, rich parent or someone that, like, is a studio exec and just was like, oh yeah, my daughter, my cousin, my niece, whatever. I don't know. But there's some line where she was already in the industry before. So, I don't know. I don't know. Those are my thoughts. That is how I feel.
Me either.
That's how I feel. And yeah, that's it. I don't have any more else to say about this. I think I said it all. It's off my chest.
Are we done then? Is that it? Because I don't have anything else.
I think it is. I think we have talked this movie to death. So now that we've gone through recommendations and we have talked about Promising Young Woman, oh my god, we've talked about Saltburn. We're done. We've given you recommendations. We have nothing more to say. We would love to hear what you guys have to say. Like we said, this is definitely one of those like conversational piece movies. So like, I definitely love talking about this movie or like hearing what other people think. I just didn't necessarily like the movie itself. But I like that about movies.
I like knowing what yeah. I like knowing what people think because I end up liking movies better after I
Yeah.
hear why other people like films. Um, so maybe you guys can convince me that this movie wasn't slow. Maybe you can convince me it wasn't boring. We'll see. Drop
Yeah,
your
I
theories.
really
I want to
do.
know
You
everything.
can email us at Femnoir Podcast. Just kidding. That's not our email. You can email us. You can email us. You can DM us. Yeah, just do whatever. Get a hold of us. Talk with us. Comment on our post, and we'll love to hear what you have to say and hopefully have a great conversation with you guys later. If you guys are looking for more content, we do have a Patreon, and we are actively putting out content on there, so definitely go and check it out. We've got some bachelor talks that we have, and probably, yeah, definitely just other tangents. If
Tangents.
you just enjoy having like a companion, it's very cheap, I promise, and you will help keep this podcast alive. So once again, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.